Hey everyone, welcome back to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. And you got two dads for the price of one today. Myself and Maury both here to talk dad stuff. And Maury was on my other podcast and we chatted about writing and all kinds of great stuff. And get this, I get a round two. Ding ding, ring the bell. Maury's back and we promise to behave ourselves. Maury, welcome back to Dad Space. Nice to have you here, man.
Thank you for having me. Last time was fun.
Excellent.
I came back.
You got some homework last time,
Yes,
which is good.
I did. I think I completed it.
Okay, good. All right. We'll be checking your answers after class. Maury, tell everybody where you are. Where do you live?
I live in Tennessee, southeast United States. For those of you who don't know, I live in like southern middle. So I live in a town, but some people would probably think it's rural, but we live close enough to the country where it's not that far, but modern conveniences of Lowe's and grocery stores really close. So
Okay.
a little of both.
Tell us about your family, your wife, your kids. What's up?
My wife and I have been married actually 19 years this past Tuesday. And
Clapping.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we've been dating since 2000, so we've almost been together. We celebrate the dating more than we celebrate the wedding, actually. So this year marked 25 years for us, which is
Nice.
super hard to believe. I have 4 kids. I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Boys on the bookends, girls in the middle.
There you go. Right. You got the $1 million family. That's great.
Yep.
I like it. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about something you mentioned before we record. And I love this idea. I haven't actually heard anybody explain it the way you do and how you guys live this in your home. There's a story that sparked this conversation, which we'll get into a little bit, but there's this no consequence conversation thing that you have within your home. And I know you were saying this is not your thing, but you've adopted it, you put it into place, and it's working, and it's got great results. Great for communication with your kids. Okay, first explain what is this, because I think dads listening are going to be taking notes on this one.
Okay.
I wish I knew this when my kids were young, but lead away. Let's explain what it is, and then we'll talk a little bit about what happened recently and how you used this.
Okay. No consequence question in our home. We'll talk about later where it came from, but essentially it allows one of our kids to come to me or my wife and preface whatever they're fixing to ask by saying, I have a no consequence question. It can be a statement as well, but it's just always called the no consequence question. And essentially what happens is the kid can ask or explain something without the fear of punishment. Where it's almost, I think you could look at it, they get to plead ignorance for a minute going, I didn't know, what should I have done? What do I need to do? Things like that. And it allows us as parents to be able to say, okay, well, you're going to get a lecture or an explanation, but you're not going to get grounded. Nothing negative is going to happen. So yeah, since its inception, we've had several with all 4 kids, maybe not so much the youngest one yet because he still doesn't understand, but the other 3, we've had several no consequence conversations.
So it could be something, to them it might seem huge, but it could be something pretty straightforward. It could be something more complicated. Maybe they don't understand what a word means that they heard, or an action that they've come across. Right, it can be almost anything. Right.
Yeah, and depending on the age of the kid, it can be something that is a harder conversation, and some of the conversations can be a couple of minutes, and we're like, oh, okay, that wasn't that big of a deal. With the 16-year-old, we have some of those conversations are, okay, this is a heavy conversation, but it opens the door for him to be a little bit more casual. Casual might not be the best word, but it's relaxed. That's the word. It's more relaxed. He knows, okay, I can ask this and I'm not going to get in trouble or preached at or fussed at because he's prefaced it with the whole no consequence thing, because we made a deal. I mean, and sometimes, yes, when they come to you to ask that, you're sitting there going, okay, well, what are they going? I mean, you don't know, but we've never had a situation where it's been. I should have punished. I wish I would have been able to punish them for that.
All right. So they're absolved of any like negative impact or losing privileges or any of that, but it opens communication between you and your kids.
Yes.
Okay. Is this how you were raised as a kid?
No, not really.
Okay.
My mom, my mom, I did not want to disappoint her. That was
Okay.
basically my real quick story. I lied to her one time and I got caught. And we talked about it, and after she didn't spank me, I wish she had have. But she said, "I am so disappointed in you." And that might as well have, I was like, and I remember walking away from that going like, man, why couldn't she have spanked me or something? So that situation, I was more involved with that. My father and my relationship, we were a lot alike. So we tended to butt heads a lot. And he would say a lot of times, because I'm the daddy, that's why. Didn't really get any explanations a lot of times, which in his defense, I think his father kind of raised him the same way. So I frankly would learn a lot of times, I don't want to say just keep my mouth shut, but yeah, the no consequence, and funny it is, that my sarcasm now was born in the fires of being a smart aleck kid. I know that. I own that. I was the kid that my mom would always say, Maury D, you don't have to get the last word. And I would go, I know. And then she would say, Maury D, you don't have to get the last word. And I would say, I know. And yeah.
Right.
And I learned my lesson. And so now the sarcasm and the smart aleck, I try to be more funny now than, hey, look at me. But yeah, my childhood, the no consequence, I wish I would have been able to do some no consequence conversations when I was growing up.
When you don't have the freedom to talk to your parents and be ignorant in front of them because you don't know what you don't know, and without feeling judged, my parents were very calm, casual parents, but it was really black and white growing up. And if you said the wrong word, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen, because you don't talk like that in our house and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know what the word meant. I have no idea. I just heard it at school or I heard it from whatever, and you just kind of parrot what you hear. And within your innocence, you don't really understand the words coming from your mouth. There's no intent behind it. It's just a word, but it's how it's received. And when you don't understand kind of how the world works and there's nobody to ask, in innocence, ask like, is this wrong or right? Am I on the right path? Is this a wrong word or a good word? Is this a good feeling or a bad feeling? It doesn't give you this sense of security in a sense because you don't know who to ask, right? You can't ask your friends.
No.
Because what are they going to tell you?
No, exactly. Right? And like, I remember that there was one time we had satellite back in the day, like in the field, like the big one, like those of you who are younger, you're like, what do you mean? The satellite actually moved. Like you would look out the window when you were changing the channel and it was like pointing somewhere else. Like it was huge. We had to fence it off on the farm so the cows wouldn't get on it, but it was like huge. And I remember I was watching the movie. This is going to date me. I was watching, or I might not have been watching it. It was on TV at one time. A movie called D.B. Cooper, about the pilot guy and everything. And they said a cuss word. Well, I was playing Hot Wheels, and I made the two and I remember this like it was yesterday. I was at the kitchen table. Mama was making supper, and I made the two car crashes. I made them crash, and I said the cuss word I heard. And my mama said, "What did you just say?" And stupid me repeated it, not knowing that it was a bad word. So she proceeded to take me into the bathroom, got a bar of Dial soap, put it in my
No.
mouth, and I bit on it. And I kid you not, I never said another bad word again. And I probably was like 8, but I never, my friends at school would be like, why don't you cuss, Maury? And I would go, because I can still taste that dial soap in my mouth. And that is the worst. And I didn't. I mean, we say like dang. I mean, words like that, but I would just never, that's something we haven't had to wash my kid's mouth out with soap. But to this day, my mama will jokingly say, when I still get smart aleck with her, but I'm a grown man now, she can't do anything. But she'll say, I'm gonna wash your mouth out with soap. So that's always funny, but that's kind of the childhood. I mean, I grew up, it was the 80s. It's like, what does Bandit say on Bluey? It's the 80s, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, again, our parents parent the way they could parent best. It's their first time being a parent. It's funny because you look back at your parents and think that they just had all the answers, but they were 40 years old. They were working. They were learning how to be a parent in real time, having answers to questions they didn't even know they had to answer. Like they're just being them.
Yeah.
Like I look at myself at 50-ish and go, I don't know half as what I thought I would know at this age. Right. And to think from our kids' point of view that we just got it all figured out. So we were born as dad. We never had a childhood.
Exactly. Yeah.
We just became dad immediately. I look back at them and go, wow, they did a great job with what they knew, but I want to do different for my family. And then realize at the same time, a sobering fact, that my kids, they want to do better than I did. And I was to them what my dad was to me. Not the best, but as good as he could, and I could do better. My kids say the same thing about me.
Yeah.
And that's really humbling, actually.
Well, and I think we all want to do better. You want to do better. I mean, like I look back on my parents, and there was some stuff they did. My daddy provided for us. I mean, we at the time, I hate to say this, I think we probably thought as kids we were not rich, but compared to probably the rest of the people where I grew up in rural, like I said, I grew up on a farm. When I graduated as a senior in high school, there were like 35 kids in my class. That was it. So probably the people around us, we were probably better off than they were, but dairy farming is just, you have to work, and it's especially with dairy farming, it's nonstop. It is not milk the cows and then we're done for the day. It's fixing fence and working in the garden and raking hay and cutting hay and baling hay, and then you haul. I mean, it's like I tell my kids all the time, from a physical standpoint, y'all got it made. Like there is no, like on Saturdays during the summer, we were outside doing something. So I think like we all as parents want our kids to be in a better situation than we were. And there's several things that I've told my kids and we all say it as parents, I can't wait till you have kids and you have to deal with blah, 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 blah. And like you said, being this age that we are and not knowing still not understanding what we've got. To this day, there are times where I'm sitting on the couch and I look down my hallway and I go, I cannot believe this is my house, or I cannot believe someone's trusting me with these kids. And I think a lot of times with new dads in general, yes, it is a lot of responsibility to be a father. I think being a father is probably the most important role I have right now, even so much more so than being a husband. Husband is very close because I want my kids to see how I treat their mom, and I want my daughters to see how a man is supposed to treat them, and then I want my sons to see how a man is supposed to treat his wife. So that's important. But I think a lot of dads, the intentionality of just making time. I've always told my kids, you don't want to look back and go, I wish I'd have done X, Y, or Z. Like, I'm to the point now in my fatherhood journey that when my 7-year-old asks me to do something, I try my best to say yes. Just because with working, especially working from home, because kids can't understand that daddy's working for 8 hours. He can't do anything. But afterwards, like my 7-year-old will come up to me and say, how much longer do you have until you're done? And then I'll say 30 minutes. And he'll say, okay, can we play soccer when you get done? And I'll be like, yes. I said, come get me if I forget. So that's something I've done, I think, better than my dad, is the fact I'm trying to make time for them because I want them to see how important they are.
I think for me, as an empty nester, you got your kids at home. I'm literally jealous. As an empty nester, I have nobody here. My kids are out, they're gone. And I wish I had like some do-overs, you know, like there was some times where I went left when I could have went right, or I went high when I should have gone low, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, you're like, oh, I didn't live up to my own expectations of being a great dad. And I know I've let my kids down, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's happened. It's done, right? It's their memory now when dad wasn't enough in this situation, right? And it's just, it bothers me sometimes that I don't get another chance. And I just think if I had known that a little bit earlier, I think I would be a little bit slower to react as a dad if things weren't going right, or I was frustrated, or money was tight, or whatever. If I gave myself a little bit of grace to not be okay in the moment and take some more time for myself, you don't always have to have the answers. You don't always have to be the first to step up and give your fatherly advice. Sometimes you need to take a back seat and listen a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I think like you said, the grace, I think since I've got, I don't want to say it's because I have 4 kids, but we had to, my oldest was born we got married in 2006. My oldest was born in 2008. And for a little while, it was just, it was easy. Like, I mean, as easy as parenting can be, it was my wife, me, and the kid. And going on vacation, packing wasn't that bad. I mean, and then we almost joke, we had the second kid and then we didn't stop. I mean, it was like bang, bang, bang. I mean, it was 2013, 2014, 2017. And it was like so we had to quickly adjust to, and I will say, I will preface this. I grew up knowing for a long time the things I was going to do differently when I became a father. So I don't want to say it was like a driving force, but I have, like you said, I do a lot of internal monologuing when the kids, I'm a very, just a while ago, my 16-year-old and I, we drove to I took a greenhouse in the backyard apart and then took it to the dump, and we were driving and he was talking to me, and he looked at me and I said, just to give you an insight into my brain, when you were talking to me just then, I said, I was listening, but I answered you in my head because I'm running through all this stuff. And I said, so I said, I want you to know I'm paying attention to you. And I think a lot of times, one advice I could give, I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I try to have conversation. I try to talk to the kids. I will tell them, okay, I screwed up, or, oh, I'm sorry. Or we've all done it as parents. You see something in the floor, you yell for somebody to come get it, and then they come and they go, that's not mine. And then, and you can, and that's where you have 2 choices. You can say, okay, and then you yell for the other kid, or you can stop and go, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was yours. And and they go, okay, that's okay. And then they bebop, and then you yell for the other kid. I just think we have to treat the kids as little adults sometimes in the way you talk to them. So when they do grow up to be an adult, they hopefully, like you've said, they hopefully can look back on interactions they've had and go, okay, this is what a normal, rational human being does in this way. But that goes back to the whole you can only control yourself, and that's our mantra. And that, I mean, it's you just. I think that helps a lot, at least with my house. Is I talked to somebody the other day. I try to be the thermostat and not the thermometer in the house. Like the thermostat controls the environment and the thermometer is controlled by the environment. I try to be the calm. I want the kids to go, well, if daddy's okay, if daddy's calm about this, then everything must be okay. But if daddy freaks out, then everybody goes, well, if he's worried, then we should really be worried. So I try my best to be the thermostat in the house and be calm.
It's like when your kids are really tiny and they fall down in front of you and they look over their shoulder to see if you're reacting.
Yep.
And if you don't jump up and go, oh my gosh,
Yep.
oh my gosh, they start crying.
Yes.
Right. But if they look back at you and you're like, you're good.
Yep.
They're like, okay.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And
you're right.
yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. That's happened a lot. Like we had my one of I think it was my oldest. He was playing flag football and he tripped and got hurt. And I'm coaching him, so I went out on the field to check on it. Well, my wife, being my wife, she stands up on the sideline and is almost ready to come check on him. And I put my hand up and I was like, and like shaking my head like he's, and I put an okay sign up like he's good, just stay. Because I knew if she came out there, she was going to be a mom, which is great. I'm not knocking that, but I needed him to be back in the game. I could already tell he was fine. He just needed to walk it off. So after the game, she was like, don't tell me not to come check on my baby. And I went, I wasn't telling you not to check on your baby, but I said, your baby was fine. I needed him to play the rest of the game. If you'd have come over there, he'd have been done. Because he'd have been like, oh my, and I 100% agree with you with the analogy of looking at your kid when they fall. You can kind of tell. If you jump up and act like it's hurt, well, that goes back to the thermometer thing. The kid's like, oh my gosh, if they're panicking, then it must really be bad. And you're like, no, you're okay.
Yeah. The thermometer and thermostat. I like that. That's a really good one, Maury. I like that one. I told you I wasn't going to give you homework, but I think I might give you some homework. A friend of mine, his name is Dave as well, because all the Daves hang out together. We have a club. And Dave does this thing, which I'm really considering on stealing. I want to put it in front of you and get your thoughts. What Dave does is he goes out and he gets a big bowl of pebbles, like these little tiny pebbles you find at the beach, that type of thing. So he gets this big bowl of pebbles and he collects them. And what he does is he gets one pebble representing each of the weeks that he believes that he has left on this planet. Now, I know that feels a little bit morbid in a sense, but it's kind of an estimate of how many more weeks that he believes that he has in, for the rest of his life. So do the math, whatever that is, collects that many amount of pebbles, puts them in a jar, and then every week what he does is he goes into that jar, pulls out a single pebble, puts it in his pocket, carries it with him for the entirety of the week. So anytime he reaches into his pocket to grab his change or his keys or whatever, the pebble's there. It's like a little reminder. You can stick his hand in his pocket. It's right there. He can, it's like, oh yeah. And the idea is at the end of the week, he takes the pebble, he takes it to a pond, a river, a stream, something, and he throws the pebble away. He throws it into the creek, into the pond. Very eco-friendly, right? He just throws the pebble into the creek. And the idea is it's a symbol that at the end of the week, that week is now gone. You don't get it back. What's gone is gone. The time is gone. And it's a reflection moment for him to go, how did I show up? How did I live? How did I make my world better? And this pebble is just a representation of a week well lived. So I love the idea that Dave does this. It's a great suggestion. And again, it's not really about counting down the days that you have left. It's more about counting and investing in the intention of the week so that no week idly just flows by. You lose track of it. You're like, what happened this week? Like, did I meet my goals? Am I better than I was before? I just love it. What are your thoughts around the idea of living intentionally and this pebble idea?
Well, yeah. And I think, like I've been seeing on social media, there's a lot of people, especially with graduation around right now, like a lot of people have said like time is a thief. And I try, my wife and I had a conversation. I don't, it's not that I don't like the phrase time is a thief, but I tend to want to be on the positive side of it. I would not say I am overly optimistic. I would say I'm realistic. I look at a situation, I'm not negative or I'm not positive. I'm just like, this is probably what's going to happen. I look at things like time goes by fast. It seems like just yesterday I was in my house on my 10th birthday thinking to myself, I am a decade old. Oh my gosh. And now I'm almost 5 decades old, and it's fun. It's just funny to me. And I have thought about, like, you speaking of the homework, for those of you who don't know, Dave convinced me to write a book last week after a conversation.
Sorry.
But he's not the only one that's done it. So I guess God had. I didn't listen the first time. But the book I'm writing is about a 12-page handwritten letter that my grandmother gave me when I was 18. And I've read it a couple of times, but now I think reading it means a little bit more, because some of the stuff I'm looking at in that letter that she told me to do, I've done it. And I'm like, I feel like, oh, okay, I've done that in a way. And I do tend to look at things in a way that we only do have a small amount of time here. And a lot of people talk about legacy. And when they talk about legacy, they talk about your legacy as the thing that's happening after you're gone. And I'm trying to make legacy be what it is right now. I'm starting it with my kids. My grandmother and grandfather are on my mom's side of the family. They're still alive. One of them, 92 years old, both of them. And my granddaddy is still sharp as a tack. And we go visit and we talk, and he always tells me he's proud of me and I've got a good family. And some people might be like, well, that's nice of him. And I'm like, no, for him to say that, it means I'm doing something right. And I like the carrying the pebble around, because it makes you intentional, but it also, in those times, like for a great example, with the book, if I'm going to write a book, it's going to take some time, and I really can't do it that much while I'm working my full-time job. So I got the first chapter done, and I went to my 10-year-old daughter, who is an avid reader. She has read, I think, every Nancy Drew book created. She loves them. And I gave her my first chapter that I wrote, and I gave it to her, and I said, I want you to read this and tell me what you think. And she's the first person that's read it. My wife knows of it, but she was busy doing something else, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to include Sophie in on this, because I want her to see this is what I've been doing. And she read it at one sitting, came back and told me, and I asked her, I said, what do you think? I said, what can I fix? What did you not like? What do you think? And she said, she liked how, I liked how you tell stories, and then you explain about the story. And she even read I wrote a blog post this week about how I met my wife, and Sophie started reading all the Substacks, and I asked her, I said, what's your favorite? And she smiled huge. I posted this on social media last night. I walked past her room, and she was sitting on her bed with her computer and smiling from ear to ear. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm reading your story that you wrote about meeting Mama. I really, really like it. So I think as a dad, you can look at your life and go, okay, this is my job. You can compartmentalize stuff. But I think as much as you can, you need to bring your kids into those things that you think they might not care about. Yes, there is some stuff some aspects of my job that my kids don't care about, but there are other things. They will come up to me when I'm working and go, "What are you doing?" I stop and tell them. I don't go nothing, because then it's like I'm disregarding them. I want them to know, yes, I'm doing this, that, or the other. And I think, like, I was talking to somebody the other day on that same Family Life podcast, I think. And we were talking. He brought it up. He said, whatever hobby you have, bring your kids into it. Like watching wrestling. We as not a family, because my wife thinks wrestling is crazy, but me and the kids will sit and watch wrestling on the couch just to spend some time together, and we talk about who do we think's going to win, who's going to run in and interfere, who's going to do all this other stuff. And somebody might go like, "Well, you're just wasting time. You're watching TV." And I'm like, I don't think I'm wasting time. I said, 10 years from now, my kids are going to see that wrestler or something and go, "Oh my gosh, me and my dad used to watch wrestling all the time." And it's not, they can't tell you who wrestled, but they can remember, I watched it with my dad.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing we wanted to talk to you about too. You mentioned about big family trips and events and why that's more meaningful than a bunch of gifts that people forget about 10 minutes later. For me, it would be like Christmas morning, there's paper everywhere, or after a birthday party, there's paper everywhere, and everyone goes back to their normal life. And it's like, what just happened here? Like, it was like a whirlwind of activity, gifts were given and soon forgotten, right? But a family event, of something that your kids can look forward to, anticipate, participate in, raise their own money to be a part of. All these things are memories that are being built up.
Yes.
I think that's another intentional thing, is creating these memories for your kids. Wrestling on the couch, watching that, or big family events. So why is that important for you guys to kind of structure your family, these kind of big events that you guys do together?
We had talked about a few years ago, the kids have been asking to go to Disney. I've never been to Disney. My mom and dad promised to take us to Disney when I was growing up, but they're divorced now. I think it would be awkward if we all went to Disney now. But we were talking about doing something big, and the kids, it got to the conversations where we would literally be like, what do y'all want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday? And they would tell us, and then we were finally like, what did you get last year for your birthday? And they'd sit there and go, I don't remember. Or I'd say, what'd you get for, and they'd say, well, what did you get for, and our best Christmas present I ever got growing up was a Nintendo. We didn't even ask for it. After Christmas was over, my mom brought in a brown wrapped box, like you got at layaway at Walmart. Wasn't even Christmas wrapped. She said, "Here, I have one more for y'all." And we opened it and we freaked out. I can't tell you what else I got that year. I do not remember, but we got the Nintendo with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, come on.
And that was awesome. But we couldn't remember things. So my wife, Karen, got the great idea. She said, we're going to go to Disney in December for Christmas. And I was like, okay. Save up for those of you who have never been to Disney, because you're not going to, there were people walking around with t-shirts that said, I am not going to financially recover from this. And I was like, you are not, because it's awful. But Karen, I will give her complete credit for this. She made a scavenger hunt around our neighborhood with like 5 different clues. The kids came home from school. We said, we had, not knowing, unbeknownst to them, we had already packed all their bags. They were in the van.
What?
They did not, they knew nothing. So they come home from school and we go, hey, would y'all like an early Christmas present? And we go, yeah. And this was like at the beginning of December. And we gave them the scavenger hunt. They ran around the neighborhood. The last clue was this big box in the backyard. And the rule was my youngest was going to open it. So he opened it. Everybody got individual cards. They got the armbands, the Disney armbands. My kids didn't know what those were. It was hilarious. They were picking up going, why do we have a watch? And it was like, that's not even a watch. But they did that. My oldest at the time, Brighton, he was probably 14, 15 years old. He picks it up. He reads his card the quickest. And then we're videoing this whole thing, because I'm like, dadgummit, if we're doing this, I want evidence. So
Proof.
Brighton reads it and looks up at us with these eyes like, "Are you serious?" Like, and he allows, which he's a great big brother, he allows his other siblings to read the note, so he doesn't just blurt it out. So they all go, and some of them were a little slower than others, and they were like, what does this mean? And the middle kid, the oldest girl says, "Are we going to Disney?" And we go, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, yay." And my youngest daughter says, "When are we going?" And I said, "When do you want to go?" And my oldest daughter goes, "Now." And I go, "Okay." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "We've got y'all's bags are in the van. We're leaving we're leaving, and go get a blanket and a stuffed animal if you want to take it. We're leaving." So they were like my 12-year-old now, she came downstairs crying. And I was like, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "I'm just so happy. This is just so great." But they still talk about it. We walked, I think, 14 miles the time we were there, all over the park. No one complained. We didn't have one fight. It was the epitome, in my opinion, of a family vacation. It was the first time some of them had been on an airplane. They did great. The layovers were not bad. We flew from Nashville to Orlando, but it was, and then they even doubly surprised them. Some friends of ours met us at the airport and went with us, and they didn't even know that was happening. But they remember that, and like they are to the point now where for their birthdays, they don't ask for things anymore. They say, "Can you take me out to eat to whatever restaurant I want to go to? Or can we go to the movies? Or there's a concert that my oldest wants to go to." And he was like, "Can we do that instead of, that would be a good birthday present." So they're finally getting, let's not ask for stuff. Let's do experiences.
I like that.
And
it's a good one, Maury. I like that.
so I mean, it's what we do. Like my wife and I we got back. We went to Ireland in April for. It's probably the longest we've been away from our kids. We were gone for like 6 days, and it was amazing. It was just, we didn't spend that much. I mean, yeah, we spent money, but while we were there, we just spent time with each other. One of the places we stayed, you could borrow bicycles and ride around wherever we were, and we did that for an afternoon. Didn't cost us a cent to rent those bicycles, but we just rode around. And she said, "This is great." I loved it because I was like, there was huge hills, and I would ride down them and scare her to death. But I was yelling, going, "This is like being a kid." I mean, it was awesome. But I think the experiences, like you said, those memories. Nobody can remember. The Nintendo wasn't the cool present. It was that my mama got it for us without us asking, because she knew they're going to like this.
I like it. Anything, I talked about a do-over. There's so many things I'd like to do a do-over on for my kids. Is there any do-overs that as you look back, your kids, you got lots of time ahead of you too, which is nice for you, but anything maybe when they're really little or something, or your first time being a dad that you're like, I didn't know what I didn't know, and now I look back and go, maybe I could have done this instead of that.
I had a job of my own volition, or whatever you want to say it. I was working retail, and we all got to make a living. And that's another thing too, I think, to the dads out there. If you're working a job right now to take care of your kids and your family, and you don't necessarily like it right now, but you're doing it because you got to take care of your kids, then kudos to you. You deserve a pat on the back, because when I was working retail, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But once Brighton was born, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm coming home some nights and waking him up just so I can have some interaction with him, because I'm missing the rest of the time.
Right.
And I think a lot of dads are hard on themselves, and it's easy. I'm not shaming anybody, but I don't like it when people who make a lot of money I'm going to step on some toes with this one. I don't like it. I don't like it when people make a lot of money and will say things like, "If something is coming between you and your kids, then you need to quit." And they don't understand that there might not be anything else to go to. Like there might not be another job to go to, or they might be like, I've got to take care of my kids. And there's a lot of, frankly, parents who don't do a great job of taking care of their kids, and they've got all the money in the world. So it's not about the money, but my do-over, when I was working retail, my wife had said retail was hard because when we first got married, we were like ships passing in the night. My schedule,
Right.
I could work one night, 1 week, and one night, one day, and then the next day I might open. I mean, we couldn't set a schedule by it because I didn't know when I was going to work and whatever. Granted, Brighton, let me see. Brighton was like 3 months old when Halloween came around when he was born, and I missed it. And granted, my boss at the time said, he's not going to know. And I was like, I know that when my wife takes first trick-or-treating Halloween pictures, I'm not going to be in them. Christmas, I had to work the first Christmas we had him. I had to work Christmas Day. Yeah. And I came in, we did Christmas later, but I think I would have been a little bit more proactive as far as being involved. Another do-over I think I would do is probably watch my time, going back to the Pebble thing. I tended to use, when I was younger, ironically, I tended to use the excuse when the kids would come and ask me to do stuff with them, I'd say, Daddy's tired. And frankly, looking back, if I could go back and go in the room where I was sitting, I would put my finger in my face and say, shame on you for saying you're tired. Because I would say, you always complained that your daddy wouldn't give you time. What are you doing? And now, that's why I say now, if they come and ask me to do something, I will try my hardest to go, yeah. Or I'll say, like, give me 5 minutes, and then we'll go. And then I also say, come get me. But I think my do-over, I would be, and frankly, probably at the first of our marriage with the retail, I was so tired that when I came home, I was essentially like, leave me alone and just let me decompress. Yeah. And I wish I would have been a little bit more, what's the word? Observant of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. I think it gives some perspective to people that may be a little bit younger than us as a dad, earlier in their journey. Not that any of this stuff is going to make you a perfect dad, but it's just stories to help you think, so that when you are in a situation where, you can get the promotion and travel and not be at home because you're going to be flying all over the U.S. and you're going to see your kids once a year. You're like, well, maybe that's not the best choice for my family. I would love to be a traveling guy and go around the world and stuff, but I have kids. Yeah. And they're gonna look back and go, where's Dad? Why is Dad never here? Well, right. So, right.
Well, I will say, I have right now in my career, I potentially have the potential. That's stupid. But anyway, I have the potential to take another position. But when I was speaking to someone about this, I frankly said, what about like time with my kids? And they said, well, you got to choose your priorities. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's easy. It's and I'm in a weird place. I'm 47. I've got a 16-year-old, but I also have a 7-year-old.
Right.
And it's funny, like you talk about our parents. My mama had me when she was 21. She got married when she was 20. I was born when she was 21. When I was 21, I remember thinking, I am in no way, shape, or form ready to have a kid. I wasn't ready when I had one, when I was 29 or 30. But you've got the priorities, and my wife and I talk about this all the time. Yes, would we love to be millionaires? Yeah, it would make things a lot easier. But what are you sacrificing? I am very blessed with the job that I've got now, that my supervisor, if Brighton has a tennis match, I can say, hey, he's got a tennis match this afternoon. She says, go. because I can make up the time later with what I'm doing. So
Right.
that's important to me. So I think you have to say, like, and going, this popped in my head just now with your pebbles analogy. There was another analogy that I once heard about where you take a jar and you're giving pebbles, you're giving rocks, you're giving pebbles, and then you're giving people like, okay, here's some rocks, fill up this jar, and they put all the rocks in it, and then you go,
Right.
okay, well, here's some pebbles. Okay, well, here's some sand. Okay, well, then pour this water in there. Okay, look at this jar. What are the big rocks in your life? And everything has to be in that jar because that's your life. I mean, even so much so, like with my grandparents who are 92 years old, I try my best to talk to them because I don't want to have a regret to say, I wish I'd have visited them more. Or things like that. Just talk. I call them on their birthdays. They're tickled to death to hear from. I mean, it's things like that you've got to make time for. And it's hard. I mean, yes, it's very hard. But the people around you need to know that they take a precedent over things that they might not think should take precedent over them.
Maury, you talked about your daughter reading your Substack. For people listening who also want to have a big smile on their face and read your Substack, where do we send them?
My Substack is gritandwit.substack.com. Now, if you go to YouTube, you can search up Grit and Wit. I've only got one podcast episode, but hopefully I'm going to post one of those every Monday. I promise they will get better. Because right now you can, it's fun. I'm trying to think what else. I'm on social media you can look up at the Maury Wood. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not really that much on Twitter that much. But yeah, the Substack is probably the main thing, is gritandwit.substack.com.
Maury, let's keep the conversation going. And now that the podcast is up and running, I'll bring you over to my How to Podcast series. I'm just going to move you through all my different shows.
I need the How to Podcast, actually.
I love it. If you want more, Maury, why not, right? You want more. Go to Living the Next Chapter. You have an episode with Maury there. You've got this one, which you're going to listen to a second time because it's so much fun. And then maybe How to Podcast in the future. Maury, thank you for making time for me again, taking time away from the kids and your amazing wife to spend some time with some guy in Canada. Appreciate you making time.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks.
So thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to Dad Space. I really, really appreciate you being here. If this is your first time or you're coming back and back and back, it's great. Now, I am on a mission to talk to as many dads as I can through the show and connecting with you. You get to hear my voice by pressing play. I want to hear your voice by going to dadspace.ca and leaving me a voice message. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm on a mission to talk to 5 dads every month. 5 dads. 30 minutes maybe, tops, where we get together and just talk about maybe what you're getting out of the podcast, maybe how I can serve you in the content or with guests or topics, and just to hear from you. To hear from you as a listener would be outstanding. So go to dadspace.ca. There is a link right there where you can click on it and you can jump into my SpeakPipe link. It leaves a voice. You can leave a voice message, which comes to me in an email. I can respond to you directly in voicemail, or I can have you maybe even come on the show as a guest. It's completely up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm here for you, and I'm so grateful that you're still here listening to this. So go to dadspace.ca and either let's get you on the show or let's you and I sit down with the calendar invite on my website and let's just have a conversation. One dad to another. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Take care.